Hello, friends. Welcome to Akul Mac Live, and we are just about to reach the new year, the year end of 2021, and the next year is going to start. A lot of confusions among the mind of the people, especially the business people. What is the best approach to discuss this matter? I will be joined by a very senior person from UK. His name is Mike Bradley. He is the founder and CEO of Scale Up Arena. So, without further ado, let's welcome Mike to the show.
Hello, Chandra. How are you? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike, and pleasure to see you again. And we have a very important subject to discuss, which is what is the pragmatic approach for 2022, especially for business? Your view.
Okay. Well, I think that obviously the specifics for each individual business are going to vary. So what we're talking about here is overall thoughts and approaches to making sure that 2022 is a healthier, happier, and better year. So I think this is very much down to individuals, and as leaders, it's up to the leaders to establish the right environment for a healthy, happy, and better year ahead or time ahead, whatever that happens to be, the time period. So I believe that first of all, I think there's 4 P's that we need to bear in mind. The first one is politeness. When we're working with other individuals, as we all are in business, we're always dealing with other people. Even if there's technology involved, at the end of the day, it comes down to people. The way to get the best out of people is in a polite way. I can't recall a time personally when somebody was impolite to me and they got the best out of what they could have done. So I think politeness is a key characteristic and approach. If that's not your natural leaning, maybe you can get some practice over the Christmas New Year period with your family and seek to be a more polite person in 2022, which I'm sure will pay dividends. The second one, of course, is professional. What we all need is to have a professional approach to how we work. This means that we have to ensure we are putting our best projection forward. It's better to say nothing than to open your mouth and prove yourself to be a fool. I think that was along the lines of a Churchill quote, I think. But I can't remember the exact quote now, but it's basically, if you have got nothing sensible to say, then it's probably best to say nothing. So have a professional approach in all dealings. I think, again, if you're going to get the best out of something, if you approach it professionally, whether it's solving a problem, whether it's offering a solution, whether it's managing staff, whether it's managing finances, talking to the bank, once again, I can guarantee if you don't do that in a professional way, you are not going to optimize that opportunity. So professionalism is the second P. The third one is positive. Once again, a bit like politeness. If somebody is a negative person, I don't think they ever get the best out of a situation. So if you approach 2022 with a positive mindset, with a positive approach to communication, to dealing with people, dealing with suppliers, supporting and servicing customers, if you do it in a positive way, I'm sure the outcomes will be much better. And the final P I have here is proactive. Rather than waiting for things to happen, maybe making 1 or 2 phone calls a day that are proactive means that each week you'll have done 5 things. If you do a 5-day week, you'll have done 5 things that are proactive. And over the course of the year, you'll have done 250 positive things proactive things. And when we do proactive things, that is when things change. That's so I believe those 4 Ps as my starter for 10 in this conversation, Chandra. Your thoughts on that? And I'm sure you have some. You're always very useful in your feedback and perceptive in your questioning. Ceci being polite, professional, positive, and proactive.
Well, Mike, I think you mentioned about 4 Ps. So let me try and put some of the Ps into one basket and other Ps into another basket. So let's look at professionalism, politeness, and positive attitude into one basket, and the other proactiveness in another one. Professionalism into another basket. So 3 P's in one area and professionalism as a separate entity. To me, it appears these are the skills to have. People must develop these skills, and to develop these skills you need to have training. So when I talk about the first basket, which is professionalism, positivity, and politeness, is also a skill. So let's discuss the first basket first. What is your opinion? Do you think these are these hard skills to have today in today's world?
I think, to be honest with you, I think these skills will stand the test of time. If you go back in history, if you go back 2,000 years, 3,000 years, I think those 4 Ps will still hold you in good stead, no matter what the environmental factors are, whether it be, COVID, whether it be, international trade, whether it be politics or education or social interaction, social conscience, social media, even. I believe if you concentrate on those 4 Ps, you won't go far wrong. And I think that's going to stand the test of time. Now, contentiously, I would say I'm not sure that you can be trained in these. I believe that these 4 Ps are things that you develop over the course of your life. Partially, I think it's a condition of how you're brought up. If you're brought up to have those sort of, I would say, qualities of character, then I think you're probably at a distinct advantage. I do think the positive one, it's possible to be of a glass half full or a glass half empty type of person. So I think the way we develop these is very much more, we have to be aware that these are good things to have. And as you approach a situation, a challenge, a positive or a negative situation, it's always good to, I think once was described to me as the stimulus, thought, and response mechanism. So something happens. Before you reply, think. And the thought process then says, is my response to this going to be impolite, unprofessional, negative, or, reactive? Or am I going to adopt a positive, should we say, a positive mindset and be polite, professional, positive, and proactive, which will enable me to optimize this situation? If it's a challenge, it will maybe help you to overcome it better. If it's an opportunity, it will probably help you to make the most of that and optimize it. So my feeling is you can't train, but you can control your response to what happens in the environment around you, whether that be in your business, in your life, in your political environment, in your town, how you respond. And this is true of all social media, of course, because if you respond in a way that adopts those 4 Ps, it's highly unlikely you're going to be in a problem. It tends to be when people start throwing mud at each other that problems occur in social media and in wider society. So my feeling is, you know, the world would be a better place if we had or we adopted a four P's mindset.
Well, Mike, you are making a very important point, which is affecting all of us. We all need to be, follow these four P, which is professionalism, positive attitude, politeness, and not to procrastinate, basically. So, have a certain way of life so that it is useful for you and for useful for others. And you also mentioned that these are the things that you're born with based on your circumstances. However, can we have a mechanism where some sort of practice can be imparted to people so that they actually tend to be more of these four P's rather than less? Is there a possibility of that?
I think there is. Yes. I mean, I did go on a course many years ago called interpersonal selling skills. I think it was one of those Xerox training courses that they used to run way back in the dark ages, in the last century, believe it or not, the last millennium. Uh, so that it can, there are ways that these things can be taught. People management, I think there are ways that people can learn how to manage people better, how to make the most of them. There is a book that I love. Some people write it off as being too simplistic, but I think, the keep it simple, stupid approach is always a good one, called The 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. And that was a very good one about teaching people how to manage and how to get the best out of people. Yes, there are some of these things that can help us or help those who struggle to adopt the right approach. And I think the other one I sort of gave you was the stimulus thought response. Is a simple takeaway, that next time somebody does something that makes you want to do something negative or you've got to adopt an approach. Maybe stop a few minutes and think about it and think, okay, how am I going to apply to this? And I would suggest that at that point, adopting a four P's approach to it is going to be better. I mean, on a broader spectrum, I think, in our global world, these four P's also apply, whether it be politics or multilateral working, solving big problems like the environment or global warming, or or whether it be even solving short-term issues in different countries, like Afghanistan situation or whatever. Once again, I think the stimulus thought response, working jointly together with politeness, professionalism, positivity, and proactivity, it would help a lot between England and France, I would say, over things like fishing rights, maybe the migrant crisis. Because if we adopt a bunker mentality and sit on the two sides of the channel and sort of lob things at each other, we're not going to solve the problem. Ultimately, problems are only solved when people sit around a table and discuss it like grown-ups. And that's what we need to do. And within that context, I firmly believe the world generally needs more mutual respect, consideration, and care. And another thing that I think, if we adopted that more broadly in 2022, I think there would be a much more positive approach to so many things. And obviously, one of the things that would help to adopt that new approach would be for the media to behave itself. They seem to be very good at stirring up trouble, creating headlines that are controversial, focusing on negativity. It's like the Omicron variant. We're now being told, oh, it could, devastate the health service, blah, blah, blah. And it's all about what ifs. They're gazing into the crystal ball and looking at the negatives. They're not gazing into the crystal ball and looking at the professional and the positive way forward, and adopting a pragmatic approach. They are, in many cases, just ensuring their own reputation is intact, because if they didn't say it was going to be very, very negative, somebody would come back and say, but you didn't tell us this was going to happen. I think we have to adopt a very different approach, and if we spend too much time focusing on the mainstream media, there would be a bigger queue of mental health, and suicide rates would go up, because we'd all start to think the world is going to end tomorrow morning.
I fully agree with you, Mike. In fact, there has to be paid media. I feel that the free media should not be available, and it has to be a paid media. Let people pay money for good and impartial media. So I think you also mentioned one of the major item, which was related to uh, you know taking this approach in a much more pragmatic way. And you also mentioned that the courses of interpersonal skills were conducted in the last millennium. So now we're in 2021. These four P's are still valid for last 4,000 years. What is, we can provide to entrepreneurs, to leaders, to business leaders, in order to get more refined into practicing four P's? Is there a solution available with Scale Up Arena where you can help these people like me, or
Yep.
everyone, even senior people? Everyone needs this rub four P's effect. So do you have a solution for this?
I'm so pleased you asked that question, Chandra. There are three workshops, which can be online or offline, which are run. I run them. One is called the Executive Therapist Chair, which is very much talking about and talking through the challenges, trying to look at the real life tactical, operational and strategic challenges that particular leaders have or boards of directors have, then adopting a 4Ps approach to solving those problems. Another one is what I call the strategic sanity check review. So there's the executive therapist chair, normally founders, CEOs, that sort of person. The strategic sanity check review is very much more towards the board of directors, seeking to tease out the 4Ps approach for the environment they're in. Then the third workshop I'm running is a half day to help the leaders of growing businesses to identify what areas practically they need to be adopting in order to optimize their growth in the short, medium and long term, hit their goals. So those are three programs, if you like, which can definitely help to adopt a 4Ps approach in 2022. And you would be probably not surprised to learn that my view of how we approach this is within the context of mutual respect, consideration and care. This isn't about somebody pontificating and trying to prove that they know better than anybody else. This is about everybody working together with respect, with consideration, and adopting a caring approach to how we solve these challenges and problems.
Fantastic, Mike. So, viewers, if you have a need for following four P's, as we have discussed today in our show today, you can actually send us an email, which will be published at the end of the program, and we will make the connection happen between yourself and Mike to take this forward. So, Mike, any last words you have for this week before we wrap up our session today?
Yes, I think, well, I'd just like to wish you and your family and all those listening a very good Christmas season, a very positive, proactive, professional, and polite 2022. I believe the whole world would be a lot better off if we adopt this faith, hope, and love approach. A bit like John Lennon, I think we would achieve a lot more. Imagine what the world would be like if we all adopted that sort of approach to how we treat each other and treat countries treat each other and organizations treat each other. So yes, I just wish everybody well and hope that next year it will be a year full of faith, hope, and love, mutual respect, consideration, and care.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us and giving such positive words to our viewers and to us. We will catch up with similar sessions next year. But I think we have one more session to go next week, maybe just before the Christmas. So that may not be related to business, but nevertheless, I'll say goodbye for today, only to catch you in the next one.
Thank you, Chandra. Have a great Christmas season. And it actually will be New Year when we next talk, because I'm away next week.